Hey there, welcome to ATL and 29, a podcast that looks at the NBA from the starting point of Atlanta. My name is Kevin Chouinard. I'm here with Tyler Jones and Glenn Willis, recording after a back-to-back in which the Hawks split, and one game had a lot of points and the other did not. Um, Maybe we could start by talking about what you thought of the win over Miami. What'd you think, Tyler?
Uh, that the Hawks offense without Trey, even though they won, like they are really struggling to generate any quality looks against really against good teams, good defensive teams in particular. Like they're really struggling to get any type of positive action. And so like against the Heat, it legitimately felt like when Trey was on the floor, especially in the first half, that they weren't going to score any points. So they got to figure something out. I think they're really missing Beat and Larry Nance in particular. I think it's just Capella makes life a lot harder for everybody else on the floor on offense when Trey is not on the floor. But I don't think going to back towards Capella exclusively playing alongside Trey Young is a viable option anymore with how well like because like Okongwu is unlocking Trey Young's offensive like ceiling right now. Like he's a big reason why Trey is going back to being 30 point per game Trey. Like it's just a lot easier playing alongside a big you can trust with the ball in their hands compared to Capella, where Trey has to just dribble. So I don't somebody's gonna have to step up more, maybe have Shea out there a little bit more when Trey isn't in the game alongside Capella, and try to beat teams in transition. I think it's probably your best option, but it's not great pickings, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some lineups that they had that you wonder where the points are going to come from. I think in particular when you look at the last game, like you mentioned Capella, and I would sort of include Levert in that, like that just the two of them don't have a lot of chemistry because Levert's the one who's going to have the ball in his hands on those lineups a lot if Trey's not out there. And if he's out there with Capella, you kind of have to, you kind of have to make Capella useful without him necessarily having the ball. So it's like those two need to develop some chemistry and they don't quite have it yet. They just haven't had the reps together. It looked like, there were a number of times where it was just like, I have no idea where you're even going to be. Like it was sticky for sure. Did you have any big takeaways from Miami, Glenn?
I mean, it was an ugly game. Both teams were on the second night of a back to back. Both like from a shooting perspective, both of the teams' point guards. I want to talk about what Miami's point guard here in a second, but Trey really couldn't make shots. Hero couldn't make shots. And it was it's kind of a flashback to earlier in the season when the Hawks would be in a close game and Quinn would lean into the defense to win the game, which is what he did. It took Niang off the floor. It closed more with a defensive lineup, which made sense. He don't have a lot of high end outside hero. He don't really have any high end ball handlers, creators, and things like that. So it's smart to kind of lean into the defense. But it's interesting to watch them again tomorrow night. But I'm watching the Heat play in that game. Heroes off the ball like a lot,
Yeah, that was weird.
and I'm like, are they trying to develop Davion Mitchell as a point guard? Because I don't. I mean, I wouldn't put. I really don't put anything past the Heat being able to kind of unlock things that no one else can unlock. But Davion Mitchell as a point guard, that was a head scratcher for me in terms of like them watching him, me watching him try to kind of run their offense with Hero kind of working off pin downs and those sorts of things. I don't know if Hero was tired or is nursing an injury and just needed to kind of be more of a decoy in that game, but that was a most interesting aspect of watching the Heat to me is watching them kind of lean into Davion Mitchell, point guard, apparently.
It could have been second night of of a back-to-back. I know they had a tough loss against the Bucks the previous night, so maybe they were looking for a different option. Hero, and also I think it became quite clear that Hero was having a hard time getting by Dyson,
Yep.
just dribbling up the floor. And so they needed Davion Mitchell to bring the ball up. So he's naturally off ball to start every possession because, like, it's pretty exhausting to be guarding, having Dyson just pick you up the full length of the floor and try to dribble on him. He's liable to pick your pockets, which is what he did, in that fourth quarter. That's also, something to talk about. It's just like, Dyson's defense kind of shut everything down the Heat wanted to do. Like he was just like, none of these ball handlers I respect, and I feel quite confident I can take their handle at any point. So like that was what really sealed the game. Him look and Karis LeVert as well. Actually, like they were really the Hawks were really attacking the Heat's like lack of ball handlers. I felt, for as good as Hero has been, I wouldn't consider him a natural like point guard, ball handling type. Probably not his best role considering his slight frame. So like I think there was a variety of factors that led to like it was a lot of Davion Mitchell, a lot of Andrew Wiggins, though Wiggins was actually pretty good overall, but I don't know if that leads to like efficient offense if that's what you're leaning on.
And I think you also see the impact. Like Bam didn't do anything in that game, and when you have you know under skill point guard, the big is the first one to really kind of suffer.
Yeah,
In that sense. And so, and I think, I said to someone when they were playing, it's like there's two things that are true. One is I love Bam. I love the way he plays, apart from his screen mess. That kind of can drive everyone crazy. But I also think he's a little overrated for what he is in the league.
agreed.
Um, um, but yeah, when you have a bad point guard situation, it's sort of what Magic have to fix that long term, right? And the Heat, I mean, we'll see what they do going into next season. But it's gonna be hard for them to win games without remaining a point guard. The rest of this year they've lost now nine of 2-7 their last nine, I think, and maybe even 3-10 in the last 13, something like that. So they're on a tough run there, and I think a lot of that does map to point guard issues.
Yeah, I think it's like they went away from Rozier. I know he's had a tough season, but like for as bad as he's been this year, I don't see how you can trust Davion Mitchell over him. Fully understand. I'm pretty sure they're disappointed in what they're getting from Rozier, but like Davion was giving them no chance. And then without him, well, this isn't the Hawks team of old where you could just anybody could literally just bring the ball up the floor on it with zero consequence. Like the Hawks will punish bad ball handlers relentlessly on the defensive end, and a big part of that is Dyson Daniel. So like I would expect that the next time they play on Wednesday that Terry Rozier will probably play a lot more.
That's interesting. Yeah, I can see that happening. It's the race in the East, has Chicago kind of pegged as like the clear number 10, and then it's the Southeast in the three spots, 7, 8, 9. It could very well be Miami and the Hawks kind of fighting out that 8-9 battle in the end, trying to get two shots to get to the playoff series instead of one. Like that's it Miami might be the team that you're tracking in the standings if you're, trying to see where the Hawks are going to end up in this playing race.
I mean, Orlando's right there. They only
Yeah,
have yeah, so the Pistons are kind of separated with this win streak. So I don't think the
deservedly
sixth seed is
so.
there. But like, the Magic are still right there. So 7 8 9
Yeah.
are probably gonna be in a battle to decide who wins, who gets to hang the Southeastern division champ banner in their stadium. So
For
that's
the
gonna
for the
be
playing
it's
game.
gonna be yep, for all the marbles. I wonder how that will go. Like, so if whoever wins whoever's the seventh seed out of these three teams, do they win the division or is it whoever wins the play in?
Wait,
Because then
what's the
that
question?
so 7, 8, 9 are all Southeast Division rivals, right?
Yes, yes.
So I'm asking if, like, let's say the Hawks win the seventh seed but lose the 7, 8 matchup to the Magic. Do the Magic then win the Southeastern Division?
No, I don't
Well,
think so. I think
might be with the
it's
team with
just
the most
whoever gets
wins.
the seven seed.
Yeah.
All
Team
right,
with the
we'll
most wins
see.
at the end of the regular season.
We'll see. I don't. Maybe if that's the law, if that's the rule, then that's the rule. But like, I could see the argument of, well, you won. You're the seventh seed in the playoffs, so you won a division. Because I mean, you would have, even though you didn't have home court. But that's just me rambling. I thought actually the more interesting game was the Pistons game, just because, uh, you know, like the Pistons are playing some great ball, and I think a big reason why they're playing so much better now is not just that case like absolutely smoldering, but like Jalen Duren sneakily has I feel like has really found like a groove
Yep.
as a center. And I
Yep.
thought he was a real problem when he wasn't in foul trouble. I thought he was causing Hawks a lot of problems with both his ability to catch lobs and finish over the top, as well as to operate in the short roll. And you see, and Okongwu kind of does that for the Hawks as well. And like the Pistons were getting that with Duran, and that kind of stressed the Hawks more than they wanted to be trying to handle Cade up top. So like it was, I mean, it was a fun game. It's unfortunate they lost, but like I was really impressed with Duran's development as a basketball player because I feel like he's made some real strides, particularly on the offensive end, that's really unlocked some stuff with this Pistons team.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
got
it's
to watch
important.
him.
Oh, sorry.
I got to watch him. I think three times in summer league. I think, and that's. I mean, if you want to go see what the player is working on, that's the thing to watch. Is what they're empowered to do in summer league. He was handling. He was passing. He was facing up. That's not what he does now. With the NBA team, he's screen dive. All that sort of stuff. But he showed, to your point, he showed some short roll. He's got good hands and stuff like that. But this kind of maps back to not having Jalen, right? I mean, if
Yeah.
you get big up the floor on defense, you got to have a big guy as low man to be able to impact that. And like Niang's never gonna have any impact on that, nor any of the wings. Burns is huge. And so Jalen Gay's not really strong enough for a guy as big as Duran. He'd have to get there very early and still probably end up fouling. And so that's another impact of Jalen not being there. He's the one guy who maybe had the combination of size and athleticism to maybe impact that dive, and they just don't have anyone that can do that now.
Yeah, to your point, Glenn, just quickly, me and David Lee, we talked about that on his podcast. And you guys and everybody can check it out. If you follow me on Blue Sky or Twitter, I've reposted it a couple times. I'll repost it again. It's Hawks Film Room on YouTube. Uh, and that's what we were talking about because we're going through clips, and a lot of it was Mo's not in the right position here. He's supposed to be the lone man. He's not communicating with the rest of his guys to take the to low man responsibilities to take away the lob attempt. And so that's kind of putting more strain on the Hawks defense. But he's really like him and Barlow are really the only two guys who are physically able to be both play the power forward position and have proper like verticality and strength as low men. Ricochet I think he has the length, but he doesn't have the strength right now. So it's kind of
Yeah.
it's just easy. It's just easy for guys to get positioned behind him with their off arms or whatever. So that's just it's tough, but like overall, like I know people were hard critical on Niang's defense the entire game, but I felt that was more on Quinn's rotation, if that makes sense. I thought he set Niang up in a bad defensive lineup alongside like smaller players that just like to me, Niang's only going to work defensively if he's covered by Dyson Daniels and Zachary Ricochet. If those two, or at least one of them, isn't on the floor, he's going to have a hard time on the defensive end because it's just and we kind of saw that a bit with the Heat. It's kind of too easy to get him isolated at the front of the key if that's the case without those two guys passing assignments off. Like it's just a little too easy to make him the main character on defense and attack.
So how far off is Mo? Like, I mean, the most common theme from those two games, I think, was just the number of times you would see somebody trying to get him to recognize something. It was just a nonstop conversation. It was his teammates, it was coaches, it was teammates that were on the bench. It was like everybody's trying to get in Mo's head. Like, is it that bad? Like, what? How much does he have to figure out to be viable? Like, or I don't know if that's the right phrasing. Phrase it however you like.
I mean, on defense?
Everything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so, I mean, on offense, they're simplifying things by letting him mostly stay in the corner right now, right? That's one doing basically one thing, right? And he can attack the glass from the baseline. That gives him kind of a second thing that he can do. On defense, I thought he was pretty good against the Heat. He was rotating into the short roll like early, and he cut that off time and time again. Then he was rotating back out, and so I think Cade is just hard. Cade dictates everything. He dictates everything, and it's kind of funny. I went back and looked at the shot chart from the last time the Hawks played Pistons. He got a million shots within like 12 feet, and in this game, Dyson made him take 3 pointers, and that's people who were like Dyson did a terrible job. Cade was just making threes.
They
But
weren't
he was
even
still
threes.
getting.
They were like 29 footers, 30
I
footers. Like
know, I
he was
know.
at the logo for a lot of these.
So you could, when you look at the shot chart, you can see Dyson did his film work and knew what spots he did not want to give Cade. Cade was still dictating if Dyson was out of the game or whatever, he was still kind of dictating things. But I thought Dyson, it's one of those things you look at the stat sheet. If you just go by that, you think he had a terrible game. He really impacted Cade's shot profile. It's just Cade made all his shots.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think in that game it was tough on Mo. But against the Heat, they were running that short roll. They were trying to run that short roll all the time, and Mo was the primary guy rotating into that space. There's another possession he had a great scram switch. He got somebody out of trouble in the paint and then rotated several times. So I feel like he's at a place where it's going to be up and down. And for me, like when you play the Magic, not a dynamic point guard, you play the Heat, not a dynamic point guard. I think that makes
Yes.
his task on defense easier to make, and it's easier to play him. When you go against a team that has, a lot of offense, like the point guard is really running things and reading the whole floor, and I think that's harder for most. So I think it's going to be situational and matchup based from here. But the reps have value. But close game, fourth quarter, Quinn has to make a decision on, do I want to play a young guy down that stretch, or not. And the thing with Niang on defense, that the sort of the killer, one of the killer possessions that felt like was when Dennis drove right on him. Niang could not have kept that from happening. But when Dennis let, at one point, Bickerstaff pulled Dennis off of maybe about 4 to 5 minutes to go. When that happened, I thought Niang might be okay. Right, he might be okay. There's one ball handler here now. As soon as Dennis came back on the floor, I was like, Quinn's got to get Ming out of there. It's just too easy to get him switched onto the ball handler. Maybe he could have closed with Ricochet there, or what have you. But yeah, going back to Mo, I just think it really depends upon how much offensive skill and versatility the other team's guards have, and if they have a lot, I think it's hard to play Mo.
Mo's two best games were against the Bucks and this last game against the Heat. The Bucks didn't have Dame, no Giannis. They played two bigs that aren't that dynamic with the ball in their hands. It's a lot easier for him to impact, and they were also slow, so it's easier for him to impact the game defensively. Against the Heat, he basically paired all his minutes with alongside the Heat's two center lineup. And so it's just a lot easier for Mo to just do the big man stuff. Against the Pistons, and I think if they could do it again, they might have changed the assignment. They had Mo guarding Tobias Harris instead of Asar Thompson. And I think that was a mistake. and that the Hawks were a little afraid of Tobias like going through Zachary Ricochet. Uh, but like Ricochet has kind of shown himself to be physically stout on drivers. Like he's actually done a really good job this season against drivers who are bigger than him, staying solid and staying vertical and not fouling and not giving up, too much ground as well. So I think maybe they should have switched up the assignment there against the Pistons. But the bigger issue was that Cade was dictating where the guys were lining up, and he was manipulating the defense in such a way that Mo Gay was getting out, was just more or less being taken out of the play before the play even happened. That's where I felt like the Hawks really missed Jalen Johnson because Jalen could see that, read that, and be like, all right, we're just going to zone up back here. I know Cade's trying to drive, to his right block, the left block. Like I know that's where he wants to go. That's where I'm going to position myself to be. Everybody else has to scram out and recover to whoever is the shooter or whatever. Like it doesn't matter who this man is. I'm staying here. I'm not going out to the perimeter. That's what Mo wasn't doing against the Pistons. He was kind of caught in no man's land far too often. Against the Heat, he could just be a center. Like he was just a second center next to Mo, Onyeka Okongwu. Pretty easy to be a help defender, and for his size, length, and athleticism to make a real positive impact on the defensive side of the floor. So I think Mo's just going to be more matchup dependent, but these are good reps for him. Like Glenn, you talking about Mo was scramming guys out against the Heat. He wasn't doing that against the Pistons, and I think that's a level of growth that you you love to see from like a young guy who his teammates know he's struggling, or is having a hard time processing certain stuff, and so it's good to see him like take a little bit more ownership, and hopefully he can grow and expand with more confidence. Offensively, he's pretty far though. Like uh, it was nice against the Heat. He made the extra pass before he decided to shoot, but like there's been a couple games now where he's been a little too quick to shoot the open 3-pointer that teams are readily giving him. Fully understanding that's he has to take that shot, but there's ways to take that. There, if you see help is coming and you see somebody open that's not you, you got to get that person the ball because they're probably a better 3-point shooter than you are at this stage of your career. So that's something where Mo just has to be tapping a little bit more to his passing and trust his teammates a little bit more in that area. Even though you want him to take these shots, I'm just saying he needs to have more uh, awareness of his teammates because I think against the Pistons he missed Ricochet multiple times who was wide open beside him. Like it's just one of those things where you just got to make the extra pass. Just make the extra pass, make the extra pass, makes the extra pass. You get it back because they're gonna flare out to the other guy. Then you shoot it. It's just an easier shot.
I like what you said about maybe flipping the matchups against Detroit with Mo guarding Asar Thompson because the Pistons do a whole lot with Duran in the short roll and Thompson trying to cut along the baselines to keep Thompson sort of offensively viable. And if Mo is in that middle ground there, he's one of the few Hawks that could be really impactful in that range. So, one of the things that we've seen so much over the last month and a half since Okongwu took over as the starting center is just the number of back cuts that Zachary and Dyson get. Is there any way that Mo can be a part of that? Or is that something that he's just not strong enough with the ball yet? Or, you're just wary of him needing to have one dribble to finish it? Like, is there a point in which he can be a part of that, or is he too far off on that?
Uh, I think that comes with reps and time and like chemistry as well. Uh, Onyeka is past like a lot of these backdoor cuts. The guy is not open on the cut. They are not open. He is passing them open
Yes.
and
Yes.
trusting them to catch the ball off his bounce passes based on the speed and like this is highest of level stuff from your center. I don't know if Mo will ever get there. I'm not saying he can't, but like if he does, it's going to take him a couple seasons to recognize when he can make that pass and when he can't. And so like that's one.
To be clear, I'm not asking if Mo can be Onyeka. I'm asking if Mo can be Dyson or Mo can be Zach. Can he be the cutter?
Oh, can he be the cutter? I don't know if he has the. He doesn't have the threat that Dyson and Ricochet have as shooters, even. So like it's just a little easier to always because you're playing Mo for the lob. Ultimately, you're paying low Mo for the lob. The other two guys, you got to get in front of them, or they're going to get ahead of steam as drivers. So that's something where even though Mo does have real ball skills at that with at his size and position, he's not as dynamic a dribbler as
For sure.
Ricochet or Dyson. So it's a little different. And like the guys who's guarding him is typically bigger players, centers, oftentimes who are taking away the lob. Like they know the only way Mo's going to beat us consistently is lob dunks or cuts to the rim. So they're always hard, stopping him there where they're forcing him. They're basically not guarding him, and they'll be like, if you're going to take the open 3-pointer, take it because that's like we're not going to let you do anything else right now. So like I think he's going to have a little bit of a hard time establishing himself until he starts knocking down threes, either knocking down threes with more consistency or becomes more knowledgeable of where to be on the offensive end besides just standing. If that makes sense. Because I think the real it's not just his lack of shooting that they put him in the corner. It's also like he doesn't know where to be on the floor sometimes when he's involved in the action, or like if it's a random play, he doesn't know. Like it's like managed randomness. I think is like where it is random, but they have principles that each guy has to follow so that the point guard, which is often Trae Young, knows where everybody is on the floor. Mo too often is just running into space, not considering what the other four guys are doing or thinking, and it mucks up the offense. So like that's where like because Mo isn't up to speed with what the Hawks are doing on offense, it's hard for me to see him being like a dynamic cutter until he gets there as a processor on the offensive end. This, by the way, Hawks fans, this is why Mo doesn't play that much and like Quinn limits his minutes because it's just it they're trying to buy minutes for ultimately they're trying to buy minutes for the game, understanding the Yanks' physical limitations and their need for somebody like Mo Gay to replace what they lost in Jalen Johnson.
Yeah, and the other part of cutting is not just cutting and finishing. It depends on how um, proactive the opposing defense is. You also have to be ready to read a defender rotating to you. Like you're not always going to get to the rim against a good defense, and so it's reading that rotation and knowing where the pass should go if that rotation gets to you and you can't get to the rim. Ricochet is very good at that. He's really, really good at that. Dyson, it kind of comes. It feels like it kind of comes and goes a little bit. And we all know Dyson is this is the first time he's ever had any kind of offensive role of this size ever. So I totally understand that. I think he's good enough at it, but I think that's something he can get better at. I honestly, I think they want Mo on for his defense,
For
and
sure.
they're honestly just saying sit in the corner and the glass when the shot goes up, and just focus on that. But it is funny because I think back to I broke down some of his film against in that Bucks game. Like there was one time that he and Nance were trying to cut on the backside at the same time, and he ceded the cut to Nance, and he replaced Nance on the perimeter. And so you saw a few times in that game where he kind of knew where to go, but there are other times when, and maybe it comes down with when they're playing really, really, really fast. It's harder for him to have the processing because he doesn't have the reps that one would need to kind of be able to kind of play at that pace. But I think they're trying to keep it very simple on offense. But next season, I mean, he has too much verticality to not use it ever in the offense. And it's gonna be interesting to see, how they start to kind of rework his offensive role next year to kind of tap into the athleticism and really speed. His speed is one of his greatest assets on offense. And the ability to kind of hit the offensive glass. But right now, I think they're just saying sit in the weak side corner and attack the offensive glass and the rebound, and we're good.
I think the Hawks should try to. steal some stuff that the Pistons do with Ausar Thompson in particular, with how they get him set up, back cutting to the rim. Uh, the the bigger issue is like, the Pistons have Malik Beasley and Tim Hardaway Jr. flanking Cade Cunningham. Trae Young has Dyson Daniels and Zachary Ricochet. So it's also the lineup that Mo Gay is playing with is challenged shooting wise, and so it's kind of hard to do any cool stuff to get him kind of in an offensive flow and rhythm outside of fast breaks, outside of offensive rebounds, and outside of like making your corner 3-pointer, which is pretty much his primary role. Right.
Zach's made a lot of strides though in that area.
Totally.
He's very functionally a shooter now. Like not just the fact that he's making them, like he just has a much better feel for when he's going to be open. He knows when he's going to be able to get the shot up without resistance. Like he knows the openings now. Like he knows when it's there.
And one of the big changes from playing in Europe was mostly catch and shoot on the weak side. In the NBA, you get to your 3-point shot multiple ways. Like you have the dribble relocation, the dribble step back, and it's taken him time to adapt to all those different ways you get to your shot. And he's showing a lot more of that dynamic kind of creation to create his shot in his own way. First part of the year, I thought he kind of struggled to figure out which. To kind of figure out how should I get to my shot on this possession? How should I get to my shot on this possession? It's not just a catch and shoot. I love his aggressiveness in transition. I love him just getting to the line, putting that thing up, reading the how deep the defender is and all that sort of stuff. And like I said, in the offensive half court, he's doing a better job of knowing which technique to use to get to his shot. I think that's part of the confidence. That's part of how the confidence has come along.
Is there anything else you want to kick out here before we wrap up? And I think there's a game from God knows when that we're not even talking about because it's been a while since we
Knicks.
recorded. Which was it? The Knicks?
Yeah, Knicks.
Oh yeah, next game.
Yeah,
Should-
somehow got that thing to overtime. And did we record after that? I
I
didn't
don't
think
think
we
so,
No,
did.
no.
Yeah. But yeah, Anyeka pulling that game out of the ditch in the last 20 seconds or whatever at that rebound and all that. So yeah, that was we talked last time we recorded. We said winning the close games is going to be what determines whether they're 7, 8, or 9, and if anybody might fall back from that 6th spot. Right now, it looks like the math doesn't look great, but the rest of the way they got to win their close games, to kind of try to land 7, 8, ideally 7. And this game tomorrow night against the Heat, another critical one, for how the pecking order starts to stack up.
yeah, just like the Knicks game was tough because I thought they were in some ways outplaying the Knicks, uh, but Brunson and particularly Karl Anthony Towns before the fourth quarter was just not missing any shot he took, and Towns was really taking advantage of when Onyeka went to the bench. Like he was really hunting for his offense, and that was kind of the difference in the game. Um, so that was a tough loss because they played well enough to win. They played well enough to win against the Pistons too. Sometimes you just lose close games. That's why I'm a I always say like the way to consistently win close games is just to not play in them. And so like what they have to do during these interims is find better ways to play offense without Trae Young. Like they have to figure that out. I think they found a rhythm with Nance, but now that it's Capella, like they
Way harder.
it's just so much harder, especially with Dyson's limitations. Like
And especially for the new
they
guys, because it's just
yes,
you have to learn two completely different styles now. The way that Okongwu, I mean, Okongwu always played a little bit different from Capella, but now it's like night and day. Like it's just two different offenses when they're out there, and it's just different.
Yeah, and
by the way,
when they
with the
can, they might have
Congo,
to go to Doms here and there. I mean, Dom can play in that Congo template, just a matter of he gives you enough defense depending on the matchup. Sorry, Tyler.
No, yeah, that's a good point. And like Barlow, I do think one thing Quinn is going to have to figure out ways to not have to play Capella. Because it's just not to say that Capella isn't good. He's still like he was good against the Heat. And like they don't win that game without him. But his clear limitations on offensive end really hampers uh Dyson's game in particular. And I think they've got to figure something out. It might just be stretching the Kongu's minutes out more to 35 plus, honestly, because like they gotta keep Dyson engaged on the offensive end. They need his offense when Trace isn't on the floor. But I just want to give some praise to Kongu.
Yeah.
Uh, he's like I don't know if you guys noticed, but like a couple times they've given a Kongu the ball and like 5 seconds less in the shot clock and tell him to create on his own. He's creating good offense for himself. And like that's not something he's been able to do before. Like, and so I think if the Hawks want to, really uh really solidify themselves more offensively, particularly when Trey's not in the game. If a Kongu's in the game, maybe uh let a Kongu run the show a little bit. They're kind of doing that a little bit, but I think they might want to lean into that more because he's showing a lot. He's showing a lot on offense, and it's not just his passing. Like he's doing a lot of good stuff for the Hawks right
Agree.
He gave us some shit in the locker room. Well, I don't know. Maybe it was Hawks PR, just the way the podiums work, which players get called to the podium and he with Lauren and I and a couple of members of Hawks PR nearby, when he was getting changed or whatever, he's like, "Yeah, I was the leading scorer. I didn't make it to the podium. I'm not really sure why." Because it
now.
was
Good
who was it? It was
for him.
Trey. It was Trey and Dyson.
He
But yeah,
should have.
he should
Well,
have. He should have.
Dyson got 7 steals.
Jason got
So
7 steals. But
no,
but
He's
Onyeka, you're right
good.
about the shot clock thing. Like, it's yeah, it's not traditionally like there are times where it's just like, oh, that's not gonna work. And then it does. It's like he's just so crafty. But all right,
It's growing.
it's going. All right. Well then we'll sign off and say goodnight, Bob.
Hey,
good
bud.
night, Bob.